Imagine standing at the altar, wearing a white wedding dress, holding a bouquet of flowers, with hundreds of eyes fixed on you. The wedding music has just faded, and instead of saying, "I do," you raise an envelope. That's exactly what I did, one day after discovering something I was never supposed to find. My name is Emily, and this is the story of the happiest day of my life, one that almost became the most humiliating day of someone else's. But before we get there, I have to start from the beginning. Jonathan and I, John, as everyone called him, had been together for 5 years. We met in college and fell in love in the most ordinary way. The same classes, the same group projects, and one late night staying up to finish a presentation that somehow turned into a conversation until 3 in the morning. John was the kind of person everyone liked. Friendly, funny, and always the first to offer a helping hand. Even my mom, Diane, would often say, "You're lucky to have a man like him." And I believed her. I truly believed it. 2 years ago, he proposed to me on the same beach where we had our first date. I cried, of course. Everyone cried. From that moment on, we spent the next 2 years planning our wedding, choosing vendors, sending invitations, finding the perfect dress, and taking care of every little detail. It took us that long because we wanted everything to be perfect. But if I'm being honest, small things had started to feel off about 6 months before the wedding. John began taking his phone everywhere with him, even into the bathroom. He had never been like that before. Whenever I asked who was calling or texting, he'd answer too quickly. "It's just work. Just Ryan," he'd say, referring to his older brother. My best friend, Sarah, even brought it up one night while we were at my dress fitting. "Are you sure everything's okay with him?" she asked. I smiled and told her I was sure. After all, why would I be suspicious? We were only weeks away from getting married. So I pushed those uneasy feelings aside. I convinced myself it was nothing more than pre-wedding nerves. Every bride gets anxious before the big day, right? As it turned out, I was completely wrong. The night before the wedding, I stayed at my parents' house, following the old tradition that the bride and groom shouldn't see each other before the big day for good luck. John had left one of his bags at my apartment the week before, and I planned to return it to him. As I picked up the bag, John's spare phone, the one he rarely used except for work, slipped out of an inside pocket and landed on the floor. The screen lit up immediately. Before I even had a chance to look away, a new message notification appeared. The sender's name was Alexis. I knew I should have stopped right there, but my hand moved on its own. What I found wasn't just a couple of innocent messages. It was months of conversations. Flirty texts, intimate exchanges, plans to meet in secret even just a week before our wedding. And the message that hurt the most came from Alexis. "I know this is wrong, but I can't stop thinking about you, even with your wedding tomorrow." I sat on my bedroom floor for what felt like hours. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just sat there in complete silence, trying to process the fact that in less than 12 hours, I was supposed to promise my life to a man who had already been making promises to someone else behind my back. That night, I had 2 choices. I could cancel everything, immediately disappoint hundreds of guests, waste months of planning, and let down family members who had traveled from out of town. Or I could end it on my own terms. On the day that was supposed to belong to me, I didn't sleep that night. But by sunrise, I already knew exactly what I was going to do. The wedding day arrived like any other. The makeup, the dress, the guests slowly filling the venue. Everyone kept telling me I looked radiant. I smiled, greeted everyone, and hugged relatives I hadn't seen in years. No one knew what I was carrying behind my bouquet, a small envelope containing printed copies of those messages, and an old ring my grandmother had given me years ago. John stood at the altar with a wide smile as he watched me walk down the aisle. He had no idea what was coming. The officiant began the ceremony as planned. When it was time for the wedding vows, I politely asked if I could speak first. I raised the envelope high enough for the front rows to see and spoke in a calm, steady voice. "Before I make these vows, I want everyone here to know one thing. Last night I discovered something. I'm not doing this to humiliate anyone. I simply believe that honesty is the very first wedding gift I owe myself." I didn't read the messages aloud. I simply looked John in the eyes and said, "You know exactly what I'm talking about." The color drained from John's face instantly. The room, which had been filled with laughter and joyful whispers only moments before, fell into complete silence. Even the photographer stopped taking pictures. I placed the envelope into John's hands, turned to face our guests, and smiled gently. "Thank you all for coming from near and far. But today, there won't be a wedding. Please enjoy the food, it's already been paid for, and it would be a shame to let it go to waste." Then I turned around and walked out. Alone, no one came after me. Everyone was still frozen where they stood, including John. I don't regret the way I handled it. Not because I wanted to humiliate John in front of everyone. In fact, I never mentioned Alexis by name or read any of her messages aloud. I only wanted him and myself to know that I knew the truth, and that I was choosing myself instead of choosing to spend the rest of my life pretending to be happy. A few weeks after everything happened, Sarah told me John had tried to contact me several times. I wasn't ready to respond, and maybe I never will be. My mom, who was completely devastated at first, is now the one who says most often, "I'm proud of the way you handled it." I don't know if what I did was right or wrong. What I do know is that I chose not to make vows I no longer believed in, and I chose to walk away with my head held high instead of crying alone in my room after all the guests had gone home. So, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have quietly called off the wedding before the big day? Or would you have faced it head on the way I did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. There are plenty more real-life inspired stories I'll be sharing in the videos to come.